Hello. Okay, so I want to show you students how to run the different tests that are on the second individual project. So today I want to talk, or right now I want to talk about a paired sample t-test. I want you all to remember this is a test of difference. So really what we're looking at is trying to determine whether or not there is a statistically significant or a true difference between our informant's feelings on two different questions. And so paired sample t-test simply pairs two questions on our survey and asks the question, is there a difference between how our respondents feel about one question over another? So to run this, I'm going to go to Analyze, Compare Means, and then down to Paired Sample t-test. Okay, you see it's very easy to do. And now I'm going to click on Paired Sample t-test. So I'm going to reset that. I ran it before. Okay, so what I want to know is, do our informants feel differently about two questions on our survey? And so I think two that make a lot of sense to compare is question number 25, artists make their money on CD sales, and 26, artists make their money on concerts. And so I'm really asking the question, do our informants feel differently about these two questions? Do they have stronger feelings that artists make their money on CD sales or that artists make their money on concerts? So I'm going to come down and I'm going to highlight 25, click on it, move it over, then 26, click on that and move that over. And then I'm going to say, okay, that's all there is to running the paired sample t-test. And there we go. That's what I get. I'm going to highlight this and delete it just to be able to move up the three tables that appear. So you should have your paired sample statistics table, your paired sample correlation table, which we're going to ignore because we're not running correlation, and then our paired samples test table. And so I'm looking at the sheet that you all are going to respond to. A says state the null hypothesis for each hypothesis with your selected variables. So with what I'm looking at, my null is always that there's not. I'm looking for difference. And so the null would be there is not a difference. And so in this particular question, research inquiry, my null hypothesis would be that there is not a statistically significant difference between how our respondents feel about whether artists make their money on concerts or on CD sales. And so that's really what you see here in this first box. So right here, it tells you those are the two you're comparing. Now to determine whether, the next question B says, state exactly where you look to determine statistical significance and include the specific number or numbers. And so in order to determine whether we have a statistically significant difference, I need to come down to the two-tailed sig. And you know the rule of thumb is if it's 0.05 or less, we have statistical significance. Well, 0.000 is certainly less than 0.05. So we do have statistical significance. And so responding to B, I would say I looked at the two-tailed sig, and then I would give the number. And that number is 0.000. C states, explain whether you accepted the null or failed to accept the null hypothesis. Because we have statistical significance, we have a true statistically significant difference between how our respondents feel about these two questions. So because we have statistical significance, I will reject, or as it is more correctly termed, I will fail to accept the null hypothesis, which responds to C. And D says articulate what this means. That is, state what you've determined conducting this analysis using the wording of the survey question. So I would say there is a statistically significant difference between how our respondents feel about question 25, which again is worded, artists make their money on CD sales, versus number 26, artists make their money on concerts. But wait, you're not done yet. I'm going to be sitting on the edge of my chair as I'm grading your paper. So I need to know there is a statistically significant difference, but what is that? So in order to complete your interpretation, you need to look back up here at the means. And when you look at the means, you see that we have a 4.7 for number 25. So that means our respondents 4.7 is close to some would agree that artists make their money on CD sales, but we have a 5.82 For 26, artists make their money on concerts. So our respondents pretty close to agree that artists make their money on concerts, and only a little bit less than somewhat agree that artists make their money on CD sales. And that is all you have to do to analyze the paired sample t-test.